Today we need to get into Dispatch talking about something illegal that happened. We need to get into Jimin being talked about for participating in Payola, and then we need to get into Suga talking about BTS disbanding. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave. To decide hate it or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab a dumpling, a taste-filling mug merch, and let's go. People were very shocked recently as people were listening and watching old BTS moments and realized that Suga basically mentioned that BTS would have disbanded. So what happened here and why was BTS about to disband? If you're not aware, a couple years ago, BTS was at an award show and announced that they had highly considered if they should disband. This was before the pandemic because it wouldn't be surprising to hear artists rethink their entire career and life during the pandemic, but this was actually before. All the members were severely struggling with it themselves, figuring out what to do and being burnt out, that they just wanted to call it quits. Each member had this thought, but none of them wanted to be the bad guy. While they spoke about it, none of them acted on it. And they had time to talk about it during the award show. Each of them cried and broke down over their struggles. There were some armies that have then realized that Suga actually hinted towards that moment many ages ago in a song. And many people are always very shocked when we see little Easter eggs in their songs, or we finally figure out who they were singing about in their songs. During Suga's portion of BTS's recent documentary, he spoke about the song and talked about how the boys all needed to eventually make a decision and no one wanted to be the bad guy. This reminded armies of a song called Trivia Seesaw, where Suga talked about this almost word for word. But then also right after those words he said during the documentary, Suga said everyone was awkwardly passing the buck. This meant that for a moment when they were figuring out what to do, everyone was either passing the duties to announce it among each other, or they were just putting the idea of disbandment off or saying that BTS is done and trying not to think about it. Naturally, they kept it to themselves, and who knows if HYBE was even aware they were thinking about it. A group coming to the idea of disbandment is something that will happen to every group. I think what makes BTS very different in this case is that, yeah, BTS members don't hate each other. So the only thing that would make them want to quit is not knowing creatively which direction to go into or not feel fulfilled being in the group. This makes sense as when you're in a group, it becomes hard to think about yourself and significantly harder to make music that you might enjoy because the music has to be music that sells and music that 7 people can all sing together. Someone like Suga, as we see from his album, has very little interest in creating pop music when it's just him. I think this is something that frustrates me when armies talk about mass streaming a specific member, even if they don't like the music, but simply doing it just to support them. I get that, and as fans, this is what we must do. However, it gives almost an inaccurate gauge over the general interest of that song and doesn't let the specific member find the audience that might enjoy it. Because a hip-hop song entering the pop charts makes no sense, but it's something that the fandom is constantly pushing to happen. The members go through a lot, and something that can definitely push the idea of disbanding or quitting is when the members get stalked. This is something that RM dealt with firsthand. If you aren't familiar with the story, let me explain. There was an employee for a company called Rail, and RM was stalked during his time there. This is a Korean rail system, and it's used to get around. The rail system itself is very nice and a very effective way to get around if you don't want to fly or take a bus or a car. And it's typically faster than a bus and a car. It's more scenic and all those things. The reason I bring that up is because we need to understand this isn't something that RM would avoid taking. People like to victim blame and say, well, someone as famous as him should be taking extra precaution and maybe not take such things. But of course, anyone is going to want to feel normal and do normal things. That's first of all. Second of all, as I just mentioned, it's not really a mode of transportation that is of lower quality transportation. The tickets aren't exactly super cheap. Cheaper would be a bus or something like that. The next upgrade from that would be a private car. But again, the train is faster. An employee then got RM's information and checked it multiple times during their duration of working there. Things like phone number, address, and those things. Of course, we have no idea if the information was ever jotted down and handed over to other people or whatever it was, and I believe it was in the span of multiple months or years. The employee was then caught somehow, and then it was believed that they were proven guilty for doing this, and then either got a fine or went to prison. I can't remember, but they got fired. Recently, Dispatch actually came out to report of the illegal action towards BTS, and that the person who had done this also did this with several other people, and it wasn't just RM. I think what most people would be curious about were the other people, celebrities celebrities too, because if she was only looking at celebrities, it's concerning who she might be giving the information out to. If she was just looking at non-celebrities and then literally just closing it out, I don't see how that's a huge deal because nothing is happening and the employee never had any intention of calling or leaking information. However, we don't know. Dispatch all reported on the illegal situation to say that the employee actually filed against the case, to potentially say that they deserve a second chance to have the case re-looked at, and then maybe they hope to get their old job back. However, it seemed the government had refused the case and denied it. Stalking is very much a big deal, and I think at the time when this happened, stalking wasn't officially illegal yet. However, it's very much illegal now, and the likelihood of them even winning their appeal would be very low. And their legal act should be an example of what could happen if you do this, and it should be an example to not do it, if you didn't know that already. Of course, not to play the victim card all the time, but our boys definitely suffer from being the victim from time to time. One of them recently is people calling Jimin someone who engages in payola. If you're not aware of what payola is, this is when an artist pays to get somewhere. And understand, this is not what people think it is, because if an artist can pay to have what they want, then only the celebrities that are already rich would be able to be successful. No new celebrities would be able to be successful. And second of all, if you could pay for your song to be on the radio, wouldn't you just do that? If you could pay to get an award, why wouldn't you do that? Because it's a shortcut to success, and labels would just do it to the artist they like the best. But it just doesn't happen that way. No labels nowadays can just make an artist famous if they're not good. What payola is not, it's not when an artist or label is paying for ads to promote their music videos or songs. That is just normal and how the Western market has always promoted their music. Recently, Jungkook has been getting a lot more hate due to how much recognition he has been getting. One that he has been getting over and over again is about that he is a fraud artist and that he uses payola. And so if the claims of Zionism and that stuff isn't working and isn't stopping him, suddenly he is being claimed once again for being an artist that is a fraud or is involved in payola, when in reality he's just doing regular Western promotion. However, the hate recently took a whole new toll when the people who like Jungkook were noticing that everyone who was doing this hate train were all people with Jimin in their profile picture. Suddenly everyone started to trend that Jimin was involved in payola and that he was a fraud to get back at Jungkook haters. However, this is so immature and so not the right action to do. What is this going to do? It's just going to make people who are spewing this hate to spew more hate to fight it. And then what ends up happening is all of this just affects the boys. Jimin is the one who gets affected when he turns on his social media to see people trending that he is a fraud over nothing and that his music is a fraud. Imagine working so hard to read that online. And you know what makes this worse? We have seen this play out. What then happens after this is that HYBE will suddenly be trending and people will be blaming HYBE, saying, why isn't HYBE getting involved to stop this? And then the fandom drama always comes back to the company. I just want people to imagine a company as that friend you never see because they're so busy. They can barely hold a relationship because career comes first. Now imagine going up to that guy and blaming him over your drama. He's literally going to look at you and then ask you to leave because he is busy and cannot think about your problems. He doesn't have the mental capacity of thinking about your problems. So please stop this drama. Jimin is not a fraud and he is not involved in any payola. Jungkook isn't even involved, and I don't know where these people come up with this stuff. And I wish it was like 3 people thinking this or having no idea what a word means, but these trends sometimes have thousands to 1 million people, all misunderstanding. I don't understand how that happens. Millions of people and not one of them is sane. Let me know what you think and make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.